This week on the Baseline Podcast, we talk about the Olympics and how the U.S., well, is not really dominating anymore and how the world is catching up with them. We also talk about the MLB Trade Deadline. We saw the Cubs and the Nationals sell out while the Reds didn't do enough, and, well, the Dodgers, well, they just got really good. And we also talk about the NBA Finals. We react to it. We react to the draft. And we also finish up by giving 5 bold predictions for college football and the NFL. That's all up next on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Baseline Podcast, where we talk about sports. We cover all the angles. We talk about the latest news in sports. And so my name is Ben, and this is the podcast, and I am here to talk about some sports today. We're going to be talking about the Olympics. We're going to be talking about some baseball, some basketball. We're covering all the sports today, people. And I'm so glad that you're here. I hope you had a great weekend, a great past week. Maybe watching the Olympics with your family, maybe catching up on the NBA draft, whatever you were doing. I hope that you enjoyed it. And like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of different sports today, but I want to specifically talk about the Olympics, mainly because I kind of haven't talked about them the first 2 episodes of the podcast, which, by the way, if you've loved the first 2 episodes of the podcast, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know how much you've loved it, because I want to keep making it good for you guys. I hope you keep enjoying it. Again, I love talking about sports, and I'm glad I brought this back because I've really, really missed it. And so, yeah, let's talk about the Olympics, because I have a question that I want to pose to you guys that I hope, I guess I'm interested to hear maybe your opinions in the comments, or maybe you want to text me or whatever. One of those things is this, is the USA's dominance over in the Olympics? Is this the end of the U.S. dominance? Not overall. I'm not saying every sport, because we obviously know there are a lot of sports the U.S. is terrible at. But I just mean medal-wise, like medal count. You a lot of times you'll see that separation between the U.S. and some other countries. Not a lot, but you'll see that separation. What I'm noticing this year is that there's some sports that I thought the U.S. was good at that now they're losing at, and it's a shocker. It's a shocker to a lot of us, but it's one of those things where I think the world is getting much better. And I think sometimes the USA, us Americans, think that once you're the best, and you have to keep that edge. You have to keep that dominance. And it's a reality that I think the USA is not necessarily the big dog in the fight anymore. I mean, they still are technically. I still think that they're kind of the number one country per se, but there is still part of me that thinks, wow, China can overtake them. ROC, or the Russian Olympic Committee, could overtake them in a few years. And it's time for the U.S. to wake up in certain sports and say, hey, this is our time. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a second. But first, I want to talk about the Olympic medals. I made like I think it was like the first episode, I kind of made like a guess on how many medals the U.S. would have. I'm pretty sure I'm way off. But what I do know is that right now, these are the medal totals of the top 3 countries. And they've actually changed here as I've been doing this. As of today, Monday, August 2nd, USA has 6 gold medals. Yeah, we wish. 61 medals. It's actually 62 now. They have 21 gold medals, 25 silver, 16 bronze, which is good. But then you see who is trailing them very briefly, and that is China, who at 59, it's now 60, 28 gold, 16 silver, 15 bronze. And then the ROC, or the Russian Olympic Committee, is now at 12 gold, 21 silver, 15 bronze, for a total of 48 medals. And there's a lot of other teams in there. Teams. I keep saying teams. This is the bad part. So there's a lot of other ones in there. So you have Great Britain at 34 medals, Japan at 33, Australia at 32, Italy at 27, France at 23. And you look at those numbers and you're going, wow, a lot of the big countries, right? And obviously you're going to have that. There's more athletes. There's more, I think sometimes in some countries there's better athletics in certain stances. And I think that's where it's very interesting. But I kind of look at China and go, I think if China can really figure out like the track and field aspect, especially the running and stuff, there's a good chance China in a few years could overtake USA, and medals. ROC could be up there in a few years. Like, I still think that the U.S. is still the dominant team when it comes to medals overall athletes. I think they still will win the medal count every year, but it's getting tighter. The world is getting better, like I said. And I think there's 3 different things that I've noticed about the USA in the Olympics. I've been kind of keeping track here and there. The first thing is this, is that the U.S. men's basketball team, being a basketball guy, I'm sorry. I don't mean this any disrespect to France, but the U.S. men shouldn't lose to France. You have some of the best players in the world on your team. You have the Damian Lillards of the world. You have the Kevin Durants of the world. There's so many amazing basketball players on this team. Now, France, yes, has Batum and they have Gobert, and Fournier, but really? We're losing to France? That's when this question first started hitting my head, because I'm sitting here going, how do you lose to France when you have a former MVP, a scoring nightmare in Lillard, a bunch of other dudes that can light it up on the scoreboard any given night? Tatum, who's a young dude who can light it up any night. I just think of these dudes and I'm going, how do you lose? And then that's, I think, was a wake-up call, because you've obviously seen the U.S. now dominating a couple of games. But for me, I'm just sitting here going, that shouldn't have happened. And that was the reality for me, that I'm like, the world is catching up. Now, I give all the credit to France. They outplayed the U.S. They beat them fair and square. And when you put a good game together, you're going to win. And that's what happened. You look at Slovenia. Never made it to the Olympics before. You add Doncic, a very good player, and you play as a team, you're going to win every single game. And they've proven that. Now the U.S. coming up has against the number 2. We're technically the number 1 team in the world. Spain's number 2. We play them in the quarterfinals. You have to win this game. Like there is no, if you lose this game, it would be very hard for you to come home and have your head held high, because you've let a country down that is known for the game of basketball. This is where the NBA is played, and you're going to go out and lose in the Olympics, not even medal. That would be a shocker, I think, beyond anything. And I think almost on top of that shocker, I think, the women's basketball team's been doing great. The women's 3-on-3 basketball team wins gold. Awesome. But even more of a shocker is the women's soccer team, as I'm recording this, is going to fail to play in the Olympic gold medal match. That, to me, was even more than the men struggling. That was a shocker, but it's a reality that, the one thing about soccer is, we've seen it on the men's side, the U.S. team is not necessarily a top 15 team yet. The women's team has been the best team in the world, but we're showing once again that soccer is a global game, and the U.S., you can't beat Canada. You can't beat Sweden. You don't deserve to play in that gold medal match. They're going to play for bronze, hopefully bring home a bronze. And I think about some other events. There's some swimming events that they didn't pull away a gold or a silver. Some cases, not even a bronze. There's, some gymnastic things going on. And there's so many things where you sit and you think and you go, you could have pulled at least a medal out of this. And I think the second biggest thing that under the USA thing that I've been wanting to talk about is that the world is catching up. The USA is not the overall dominant force as it once was. Yes, you have a ton of athletes. You always will. But when you don't get anybody in the tennis finals, you don't get anybody in, I always joke like archery should be something that I think the U.S. should be good at. There's enough hunters here in the U.S. And you're still led by swimmers. Like I think the swimmers is what keeps them alive. I mean, you think about Dressel and Ledecky, you put their medals together. If you don't have those medals, you're below China by 6 or 7 medals. That is what is the reality of the world is catching up. And I think that is a big thing. I want to hear your take on it. I think that the U.S. in a few years might not be the best overall country when it comes to sports. I'm not afraid to say that. I've seen it already. I've seen how they've lost against, certain things. Like, yeah, they've won golf, like we should win golf. Like, again, these are things you should win. You don't lose the things you should win. But there's things that we're struggling at that we got to really fix it up. And I think that's going to be a real test and everything like that. I guess briefly, I want to speak on Hungary because I'm living in Hungary and I forget her name, but she won the gold medal. She has a bunch of world records, Olympic records. She won the gold medal in Rio. She has done nothing this Olympics Hungary's swim team has struggled immensely, not done as well as they thought they would. They've won in fencing again, but it's been kind of a down Olympics for Hungarians, and hopefully next Olympics they'll be brought back up, picked back up. Maybe we can use the COVID as an excuse. I don't know, but I wanted to finish the Olympic talk by talking about what are the other events that I'm very interested in. What are some of the events that I really think that are that I'm keeping my eye on, that are maybe what I love to watch? And so some of the things I've really fell in love with the last couple of days when I brought it up is water polo. I think it's just fascinating that you literally are swimming while defending, while throwing, while catching. It's just that's just cool to me. I love water polo. I think it's an interesting sport. Handball's right up there too. Rebecca's kind of, encouraged me to watch handball more, and I've been kind of picking it up. And it's Hungary's one of those teams in both of those sports. They might get some medals, the U.S. as well. So we'll see about that. Another thing I have my eye on is definitely track, because that is just, I love watching the track in the Olympics. I think that was my first ever events that I ever watched the Olympics was track. And, we already saw the Jamaicans do a clean sweep in the women's 100 meter. I think you're going to see a lot of Jamaicans in the top. You'll see a lot of, I always love seeing it because there's a lot of different countries that have just that really fast person or really good athlete. You'll see probably a lot of the African nations dominate the long distance. It's I just love the Olympics. The Olympics have been very interesting this year. Like I said, it's been cool to see some of these kind of these countries you don't think of. They win a gold medal or a bronze or a silver, and it's really cool. You think about Israel won a gold medal, and you think about, I'm trying to think of some other places that won gold medals. Qatar won a gold medal. Like, it's really cool to see like these kind of places show that, hey, we have some of the best athletes as well. Because that's what the Olympics is all about. It's not about just one country. We talk about the US or China. It's about the world. Like the world brings all the athletes into one place to compete for who is the best. And that's what makes it so, so cool. I mean, I'm thinking about skateboarding, BMX cycling, baseball and softball is back in the Olympics. Like some of these new things, the new things that are coming back, that to me is just cool. That's what the Olympics are about, is bringing new sports or sports from old back to the center stage. So that way you could have better knowledge kind of what the different sports are, but seeing some of the best athletes in the world. And that's what's really, really cool for me. So once again, the Olympics are happening. I'm going to do updates probably. I'll probably do some more updates next week as it'll go into the last week. So there'll be a lot more updates, but it's been kind of crazy. The Olympics are always crazy time. It's always cool to see who's winning, who's making surprises, those kind of things. And also, by the way, I just want to point out that there's like 12 and 13, 14-year-olds in the Olympics, which I'm always it blows my mind because I think about what I was doing at 12, 13, 14. I'm like, I was playing video games and hanging out with my friends. And these kids are literally competing against grown adults to be the best in the world. And I think like in skateboarding, like the women's skateboarding, like 13-year-olds won medals. Like, I'm like, what? I was just hoping to get good grades, right? So once again, the Olympics are just an amazing, amazing time. And the Winter Olympics hopefully will happen this winter, which will be even cooler because it's just like 2 Olympics in like the same 6 months. That's pretty dope. So that's what's been happening in the Olympics. We're going to go head on over and check out what's been happening with baseball because, as you all know, I'm a big baseball fan, and the Reds, the Yankees, the Dodgers have been making some moves, but the Cubs and Nationals, well, they've been selling everyone lately. And so let's head on over and see what has been happening. Like I just said, the baseball trade deadline has come and passed. Yeah, that's right. And so we are going to talk about mainly the trade deadline. I'll also give my thoughts on the rest of the season. But I was blown away by 2 different things. One, the Cubs and the Nationals just basically said, yeah, we're done. We're going to sell everyone. I mean, the Nationals basically sold their whole basically starting lineup outside of Juan Soto. And the Cubs basically said, oh yeah, our trio of bats, yeah, we're selling them all. And it's just, I get it. I'm a Reds fan. We've done that for years, but to see like the Cubs and the Nationals who were really in the playoffs the last few years, it's just mind blowing to me that, you see Anthony Rizzo go to the Yankees. You see Chris Bryant go to the Giants. You see Baez go to the Mets. And then you see the Dodgers make a huge move and get Scherzer and Turner from the Nationals. I'm going, really? Okay. This is baseball, and this is what's so fun about baseball. So let's get into it. I should say I'm more surprised. I want to get into it here, but I want to say I'm more surprised that the Cubs sold out more than Nationals. Nationals were starting to struggle, but the Cubs were, they were only like 8 games out of the wild card. I get it. It's a little harder to come back from that. And I think they also wanted to kind of retool their farm system. And I think getting the guys they did, I think they got some good prospects, decent prospects. But, I hate to see it because as a Reds fan, I want to see that rivalry between the Cubs. I want to see these players. But I also understand it's the business, and that's just what's happening. And so Cubs and Nationals sold everyone. Not shocked, really, kind of, but not really. Obviously, the Pirates made a deal with Adam Frazier, all-star, amazing hitter, going to the Padres. But I am frustrated the Reds didn't do more. They didn't do enough, and that's just kind of like my bold statement here is that the Reds didn't do enough. They got 3 relievers, which are really going to help. I think these relievers will give a much better look to their bullpen, but I still think they needed to add a bat of some sort. Now, some are saying shortstop. I disagree. I think Farmer is doing an absolute amazing job for the Reds right now. He's hitting the cover off the ball. And so I just think they needed to add a bat somewhere. I mean, it could have been shortstop, but just somewhere that gives them that extra, stud, maybe in the outfield or something where they can have a little extra. I know they're getting Moustakas back and Senzel, but is that going to be enough? We'll have to see. And then the Dodgers. Where do I even begin? The Dodgers just have money, and they have so much money that they just throw it around like nothing. They go get Scherzer. They're going to have a 1-2 of Kershaw, Scherzer, which is ridiculous. And they're going to add Turner to an already stacked lineup. The Dodgers are probably in contention to honestly run the table now and have a chance to win it all. Do I think they will? We'll see. I don't really know. I think we'll have to wait and see on that one. But still, they got even better, and that's what's scary. I mean, I love baseball, but sometimes it gets so frustrated because, the Reds do nothing and the Dodgers go out and get these guys. Now, they did give up their 2 best prospects, but let's face it, you're the Dodgers. You're going to be in the playoffs pretty much every year. You just got to keep retooling. So that's the crazy part is I think, the trade deadline came and passed. The Reds didn't do enough. We saw a lot of different teams add pieces, the Yankees, the Brewers, the Red Sox, the Rays, trying to think of other teams, Padres, White Sox added Kimbrel, also from the Cubs, another guy going. Marisnik went to the Padres. So the Cubs and Nats sold everyone. Reds didn't do enough, and the Dodgers even got better. So that is what's happening with the trade deadline. Now, what are my thoughts on the rest of the season? Well, my first thing is this. My first thought is that Joey Votto, he's come out of I don't know where and became the 2010 Joey Votto that all of us Reds fans fell in love with. And he's tied he set a Reds record of 7 straight games with a home run. And then he almost tied a MLB record. He was 1 game short of that, but it's just crazy. Joey Votto is the GOAT. I'm not moving my stance on that. He's back. He's hitting like crazy. And I think this is my bold statement. I'm only going to do one bold statement for MLB. This is my bold statement is that the Reds will make the playoffs. Now I could die on these fighting words, but the Reds will make the playoffs. And here is my reason. The Reds bullpen has gotten a lot better in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. The starting rotation is very solid. The Reds are getting back Castellanos, Moustakas, Senzel. You add the Joey Votto that's going right now, the Kyle Farmer, the India, who, by the way, side note, Jonathan India should be rookie of the year for the NL. I'm not kidding when I say that there is no one that's been better overall than Jonathan India. He's hitting like 280, a 400 on base percentage. The dude gets on base. He could steal bases. He's a great defender. Like, don't at me. I'm telling you, Jonathan India should be rookie of the year. That's side note. What I'm saying is that their lineup is loaded. If they get the pitching figured out, they will make the playoffs. I just think if Tatis especially is still injured for the Padres, I think this could be the momentum they get, the Reds, to jump over them. They could easily win a couple games. Padres lose. You get within 1 or 2 games at the end of the year. The Reds have the bats to do it. Do they have the pitching? That's the question. But I honestly believe that the Reds will make the playoffs by the end of the year. That's my bold statement. Will I die on it? Yes. Will I be wrong? Probably, because I usually am. But I'm going to make bold statements because this is a sports show and I want to be that guy that makes statements. But anyways, we're going to move on over. We're going to bounce it on over, if I could segue, which is a terrible segue, but going on over the NBA. And I kind of want to talk about the NBA because one, we've already talked about basketball a little bit in the Olympics, but also I didn't even cover the finals. I'm so sorry. I was so stressed of getting ready for camp that I forgot to talk about the finals. But the Milwaukee Bucks have won a title and it's awesome. I love it. People are like, oh, it was such a boring finals. LeBron wasn't in it. All these things. I don't care. You have 2 teams that are small markets that were there, and to see the Milwaukee Bucks come back and win that series, Giannis is probably in the top 3 of best players in the NBA right now. And I got to say, I think I'm going to make a bold statement. I think that the Bucks can run the table next year. I think if they can, they will. And I just don't see anybody. I mean, yes, the Nets, I guess, that are there, but something tells me Bucks will be right there again next year, going for another title. It would be awesome to see. Will it happen? No clue, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, the Bucks won the title. The Suns came up short. I feel bad for Chris Paul, wishing he would. I know he just declined his option, but they're saying he's going to re-sign. I hope he gets back. He deserves a title. He's one of the greatest ever. He deserves a title before he retires. We'll see if he gets it. And so moving from that, we'll move on to the draft. And this is what I want to talk about is that I thought the draft was very interesting. I thought there was a lot of good moves, a lot of good draft picks. I think that the Cavs got extremely better with the draft. Getting Mobley was a great pickup. He's a guy that I think defensively, if they keep Jared Allen, you put those two in the same, 4-5 role. That's a very good defensive team. That is a very good offensive team. You keep Sexton, you keep Garland. I know they also got Ricky Rubio in a trade, which was an interesting trade, but the Cavs got better. And I hope that the Cavs can at least stay out of the top 10 next year of the draft and make some advances towards getting the playoffs without LeBron. We don't need LeBron. LeBron, we don't need you. We can make it. So hopefully they've gotten better and everything like that. One team that has gotten better, and that is for sure, is the Lakers. Getting Russell Westbrook for the deal they got him for. Dude, the Lakers, honestly, if it shows up, they stay healthy, could literally win it all next year. Russell Westbrook adds a lot to this team. He has a point guard that can score, that can rebound, and can assist. You tie that up with LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Honestly, we've seen LeBron do it once. We've seen him do it twice with 2 big threes. I think he can do it again. As much as it hates me to say it, the Lakers are just that much better. They're very good. I understand Washington kind of was moving in a different direction. They get Kuzma, but it's like, all right, you do what you do. So, like I said, I think the top 5 teams that will run the table next year is you have the Lakers, the Nets, the Bucks, the Suns I'm throwing in there, and then kind of a wild card is I think the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks with Doncic will run it as well. Those are my top 5 kind of run the table teams. Again, I want to hear your opinions. Let me know what you think about the draft. Let me know what you think about the NBA in general. And what's your thoughts on the NBA? Do you like the NBA? Do you hate the NBA? Personally, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't really love or hate it. I'm more of a college basketball fan, but definitely enjoy watching some very good basketball. And it kind of ties it in with the whole Olympic thing because you have a lot of guys that are in the Olympics that also play in the NBA. So what is your thoughts on the NBA? What is your thoughts on the draft? Love to hear in the comments below. But we're going to finish kind of the day off by talking about football because football is right around the corner. Believe it or not, this month in August, football is back. We are going to have some football, some college football. We'll be talking about preseason NFL football. Yeah, it's football, baby. And I love myself some football. I miss football. I coached football last week, so I'm in the football mood. But we're going to talk about not specifically teams necessarily. We'll probably do that either next week or once the season kind of comes closer. But right now, we're going to talk about my 5 bold predictions for both the NFL and the NCAA or college football. We'll talk about my 5 bold predictions. And and then we also have some news to share about Ohio State football that we'll share here at the end of the college football. But first, let's start with the NFL. What are my 5 bold predictions? Well, number 1 is this. I believe that 1, the Browns will make the playoffs, but 2, that the Browns will make the Super Bowl. Now, I know last week I said I don't think they will, but this is a bold prediction. It's different. It's out there. My bold prediction is the Browns not only will make the playoffs, but they will make the Super Bowl. And that would be a lifelong dream of mine to see my Browns in the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens. That's my bold prediction number 1. Bold prediction number 2. I believe wholeheartedly that what's his name? I can't think of it now. Allen from Buffalo Bills. I can't remember his first name. This feels terrible. But anyways, Josh Allen. There we go. Josh Allen. He is going to lead the NFL in passing yards. Yes, not Mahomes, not Brady, not Ben Roethlisberger. I believe Josh Allen will win. Not win. He will lead the NFL in passing yards. My bold prediction number 3. This one's kind of easy for me. I believe that well, I guess this is kind of a two-part one. I guess, yes. So this is number 3. Number 3 is that I believe Chase Young will win Defensive Player of the Year. That's my bold prediction number 3. Chase Young will win Defensive Player of the Year. Wow. And the second part of that is he will also lead the NFL in sacks. I think he can get a 20-piece this year. I think he'll get 20 sacks. That is a very big, bold prediction, but we'll go with it. And then my 4th bold prediction is this, is that the Arizona Cardinals will make the NFC Championship game. Yes, the Kyler Murray-led Arizona Cardinals will make the NFC Championship game. I just think they have what it takes. They got Kyler Murray. They have a very good defense. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's my bold prediction number 4. My bold prediction number 5 is simply this. I believe, this is just me, I believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will not make the playoffs this year. I know I'm counting against Tom Brady. That is like a sin of sports knowledge. Never, ever go against Tom Brady. But there comes a day when they're not as good as they used to be. And maybe this is the year. I don't know, but that's my bold prediction. Those are my 5 bold predictions for the NFL. Leave your bold predictions below. Text them to me. Message them to me. I would love to hear your bold predictions. Personally, that was very loud. Sorry. Personally, I think I'm not far off. There's a few that I know I'm off, but we'll see. Now moving on to college football. Here are my bold predictions. But before we get there, I do want to talk about some Ohio State news. They did get a recent decommitment. If I can look up his name, I got to figure out his name here. I can't think of his name. But they lost a recruit. He decommitted. His name was, Jaheim Singletary. fourth highest cornerback recruit ever at Ohio State, decommitted. Very interesting. I'm kind of confused. He was at Miami of Florida, which makes me wonder if they sold him on something. That doesn't mean he's not coming back, doesn't mean he's not committing or coming to Ohio State, but it's just very interesting to me. I'm interested to see what happens. Honestly, it's a very fascinating thing that he decommitted, but hey, whatever his will is, wherever he wants to go, that's his choice. Hopefully he comes back to Ohio State. But moving on from that, here are my 5 bold predictions for college football. Number 1, this is my first bold prediction. The Ohio State University will win the national championship. They will win the playoffs. I was mad about last year. That's my bold prediction. I think they will win it. And I think they will face Clemson in the title game this year. I think they beat Alabama in the semifinal. That is my first bold prediction. Ohio State will win the national title. My bold prediction number 2. I believe that I should say this. I think that you will see a non-Power 5 conference school in the playoff this year. I believe it's going to be Cincinnati. I think you can see Cincinnati in the playoff this year. It's interesting, but hey, it's a bold prediction. You got to go big or go home. Number 3, right? Yeah, number 3. My third bold prediction is that North Carolina, yes, North Carolina will not beat Clemson. No, I think North Carolina runs the table. They make it to the ACC championship game, but they won't beat them in the ACC championship game. But I do believe that North Carolina, if they face Clemson, which actually I don't really know. Let me look that up real quick because I honestly don't know if they even play. Hold on, here we go. Let's see. What is Clemson's schedule? Do they play North Carolina? They don't play North Carolina. So I just now realized that. Yeah. Anyways, so that bold prediction is off. See, this is what happens, guys, when you've been away at camp. You don't pay attention when you make notes for your podcast. So anyways, we'll scratch that. I'm not even going to cut that because that was a mistake. Anyways, so my bold prediction is that I believe that North Carolina will run the table and they'll make it to the ACC championship game. And I believe that Sam Howell will win the Heisman Trophy this year. Yes, a guy from North Carolina will win the Heisman Trophy. Sam Howell will win that. That's my bold prediction for North Carolina. Not that they'll beat Clemson because they don't play them. But anyways, that's my third one. My fourth bold prediction is this. I believe that you will see Jack Sawyer start for Ohio State week 1. I believe that he's going to do enough in camp where he will start week 1. I don't think JT will, but I believe my bold prediction is that Jack Sawyer will start week 1 for Ohio State at defensive end. That is my bold prediction. And number 5, this is my bold prediction, which is, I don't know how much of a bold prediction this is, but my bold prediction is that Georgia and Alabama will make the playoff, and I believe Georgia will have beaten Alabama at some point, either in the SEC championship game or some point during the year where they play each other. I'm not doing that again because I messed up last time, but I do believe Georgia and Alabama make the playoff, and that Georgia will beat Alabama at some point this year. Those are my 5 bold predictions for college football. What are your bold predictions? Let me know down in the comments. I'm interested to see whether it could be recruiting, it could be championship game stuff, playoff stuff, regular season. You could think Michigan will beat Ohio State. Yeah, that's not going to happen. If you made that bold prediction, I would bet you something if that's the bold prediction you make. So once again, this is my bold predictions. That's kind of like what I wanted to do with football this week. And next week, we'll talk more specifically about football. But this week, it was just bold predictions. So before we finish up, we're going to have an interesting fact of the day in the sports world coming up. And I hope you will be a little entertained with it. So here's your interesting fact of the day. It involves the Olympics. Well, because I feel like I would have let you down if I didn't involve the Olympics, considering the Olympics are going on. But that's besides the point. But I will say this, though, that this trivia fact, this interesting fact, has let me down and might let you down. I don't know if you knew this, but the Olympic gold medals are actually not gold. Yep. They're predominantly sterling silver. Yeah, we've been fooled our entire lives. The gold medals are actually silver. No, well, not really. There's like a small percentage of it is gold. Like in Rio, it was like 1.34%. But still, it's not gold. It's discouraging. It hasn't been gold since 1912. I mean, what made them change it? Maybe it was just less expensive, which that could be. But anyways, I've held a gold medal before, and I should have known this, but I didn't. That's a story for another day, by the way. We'll possibly get into that next week. But it's just crazy that our whole childhood, we grew up thinking a gold medal was gold, and now we realize that it was just a little bit of gold and mainly silver. So what is a silver medal? Is that like not silver? What about bronze? Maybe I'll have to check those out, and I'll get back with you next week. But anyways, I hope that is an interesting fact that you can take it to your family and friends and share it and break their hearts. Anyways, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I hope you have I hope I've covered all the angles. If I haven't covered all the angles, then well, I'm not doing my job. And so let me know in the comments below if I've done a good job, if I've covered all the angles, or maybe I've missed something, because that allows me to see kind of what I need to do next time, what I need to cover next time. And hopefully that will encourage you to also be involved. Please answer the questions we've talked about, answer the topics. Let me know what's happening in the comments below. And if you've loved this episode of the podcast, if you're on any platform for podcasting, go ahead and make sure you favorite it. Make sure it's there. So when you're in the car, whether you're at home, you know exactly where it is, where to find it, and how to listen. And if you listen on YouTube and you love watching me move my hands and talk about sports, then that's a little creepy. But other than that, it's great. I enjoy having you here. And then make sure you hit that thumbs up button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, and make sure you comment below anything I ask. So that way I can see what you want to talk about, because that's always how I judge my next episode and how we're going to talk about our next episode. So once again, thank you. And I hope that next time we'll cover all the angles even better. And as always, we'll talk next time.